Hello and yes, welcome back to another video, guys. That's right, today we're back with my end of the month video. This is where I go over every movie I watched for the first time in the month that's just passed. So every movie I watched for the first time throughout August 2023. This doesn't include rewatches or TV shows or games or anything like that. But if you are interested in seeing my rewatches, go ahead and follow me on Letterboxd because I do log everything. Now, it was a pretty busy month for me. A couple of these movies I have reviewed here in detail on the channel. So those ones I'll go quick on. Guys, it's like 1,000,000 degrees here in the UK at the minute. So sorry if I look hot and sweaty. You know, my hair's an absolute mess this morning as well. But anyway, we're going to crack on. And we're going to bring up the lovely movie posters here as we speak about them. So the first two up, I have reviewed here in detail on the channel. First one up is Oppenheimer. That is right, the brand new Christopher Nolan movie. You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of Tenet. I thought it was a bit of a step down from him. Very convoluted movie. Whereas this time round, I was a little bit nervous going into it. Has Nolan started to fade a bit? The answer is no. This is actually one of his best movies. For me, he went from one of his worst to his best, which is crazy. This movie it's so hard to talk about in a way. It's you know, covering a very important side of history, and some very, very dark, serious tones in this film. And it is non-stop. It is incredibly fast-paced for a film which is 90% dialogue, but the editing and the way it's filmed is spectacular. The effort that went into making this film is crazy, and the ending is truly scary. It's one of the scariest films you'll ever watch, and it's not even a horror. I'm going to give this film a 9.5 out of 10. I actually thought it was pretty damn near perfect. Then we have Barbie. Yeah, I went to see them both in the same day, like a lot of people have been doing. Yeah, Barbie was a lot of fun, actually, I've got to say. The plot itself wasn't actually that great, but I think that it didn't have to be, because there's a lot of underlining hidden, I wouldn't say hidden, actually, there's a lot of messages in this one, and there's a very serious point to this movie, which is going to go over some people's heads. But I think that this movie is actually so much smarter than it lets on, and I think it kind of plays on that really well, that it isn't in your face. But on top of that, you do have just a really fun movie. Ryan Gosling absolutely steals the show in this. He is so funny as Ken. Margot Robbie's great as Barbie, and all around you've got a fantastic cast. There's a lot of good laughs. Michael Cera's Alan was a highlight for me as well. Yeah, you know, Barbie was a lot of fun. It was a really good movie. I can't believe a Barbie film is actually going to be one of the best of the year. And probably the most successful of the year, because it already is, and I can't see anything beating it. I'm going to give Barbie an 8 out of 10. Then we have The Way of the Dragon. That's right, I've been going through my Bruce Lee box set. I don't know if you can see that. You should be able to. The movie poster might be covering it. Yeah, you know, Bruce Lee, The Way of the Dragon. This is probably maybe his most famous. It's either that or Enter the Dragon. And I had a lot of fun with this one. These Bruce Lee films all kind of feel very similar to me. Don't get me wrong, I had an absolute blast watching them all. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, the choreography is what you're there for. It was so much fun. The cheesy, over-the-top story was also really good. But Bruce Lee himself was really good in this one. And it's just always a blast to watch these films. I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. Then we have They Cloned Tyrone. I had no idea this movie was coming out. It came out on Netflix, I believe. And I watched it for the cast, you know, John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, and I forget the actress name, but the one who's going to be in the Marvels and stuff. And best performance from her I've seen. Jamie Foxx, I love it when Jamie Foxx does his more comedic stuff. I actually think he's such a funny guy. And John Boyega is just such a good actor. Anything he's in, to be honest. Even if the film's kind of crap, he's normally really good in it still. So you got a great cast there to start with. And it's a really interesting story. At the start, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I didn't really like the theme of the movie much at the start. But then when they actually get to the part where they've cloned Tyrone, and there's clones of him, and there's like this weird plot starting to unfold, I really found myself engrossed in this movie. And I thought, what an interesting concept. And for that, I respect it a lot. And I had a lot of fun with it, you know. This was a really solid movie. If you're looking for something interesting to watch on Netflix, I have to recommend this one. It is a good movie. I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10. And then we have Enter the Dragon. And again, as I say, I really struggle with things to say about these films. I don't struggle to come up with things to say about them, but to differentiate them from each other, because they all feel very similar. You know, it was a really good movie still, really had some really fun moments to it. And I think one of the things I really loved about this movie, again, is the choreography. I think Bruce Lee was the master of this. A lot of people do say this. You know, you got like Jackie Chan, who's doing similar stuff in the film industry. But I think Bruce Lee had a certain touch to him, and it was just really good stuff. And I had a great time with this film. Again, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Then we have Game of Death, followed it straight up with another one. Of course, this was the last Bruce Lee film, I think, before he died. And again, I had a really solid time with this one. Again, the choreography was also really good in this one. I thought the story, again, the cheesiness to it. It's interesting because you have this very serious tone to it, but then they do some really cheesy stuff in it. And it does throw you a bit. You're like, are these films actually, you know, what's going on with this film? Are there two conflicting writers? But you know what? They pull it off really well, and it seems to work. And for that, I respect it. And yeah, I had a really good time with this one again as well. Game of Death. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 7 as well. They're all 7s for Bruce Lee. Then we got A King of New York. And this is the last film I had to watch in my Charlie Chaplin box set. It's not the last Charlie Chaplin film I got to watch. There's still a few out there I have to watch of his. But yeah, again, another really interesting movie. And I really enjoy seeing Charlie Chaplin do these more serious roles where he still allows his comedic side to bleed through, which I think is always really quite interesting. I really love the character he plays in this one, the dynamic, the kind of situations he's put in this one. It gives a lot of room for his character to unfold and do some interesting things. Some of the side characters are also pretty fun in this one. And yeah, once again, just pretty much a home run for Charlie Chaplin. I really love his work, to be honest. It's one of my favourites of those classic older actors. I'm going to give this one a 8 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Then we have Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I'm going to be really quick on this one because I have so little to say on it. Kevin Spacey stars in this one, of course, and it's a Clint Eastwood movie. And Clint Eastwood on a huge role at this point in his career with, you know, everything from Unforgiven up to this point, to be honest, has all been, for the most part, really good. It's like a little bit of a comeback after some really forgettable 80s movies. But this film was one of his worst. It was just straight up boring is the definition of this movie. I couldn't have cared less what was going on. Everything from the characters to the story was just so uninteresting. And then, honestly, I love Clint as a director just as much as I love his acting. I think he has got a great style to him. But here, it just felt so lazy, so half-assed. Yeah, really boring movie. Just, yeah, one of Clint's worst. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. There were some nice shots in it. I'll give it that. Then we have No Hard Feelings, the new Jennifer Lawrence comedy movie. And I'm not a big Jennifer Lawrence fan, I'll admit to that. She's never been an actress I gravitated towards. But she actually made me laugh a few times in this movie. Don't get me wrong, this film didn't blow my mind or anything, but I think comedy is a genre that's just pretty dead at the minute. It's very rare we get a good one. It's very rare we get an interesting one. And all of the times we do get a decent comedy film, it's normally like a comedy horror or a comedy thriller. It's never a straightforward comedy. So to get one here was quite interesting. And yeah, I thought that the premise around the movie about these parents getting her to, you know, try and loosen their kid up a bit was interesting. It made for some good laughs. And the way that she come on so desperate to this kid who obviously had no experience with this kind of stuff. It was funny. There's some good laughs in it. I think they put some of the best laughs in the trailer, admittedly, but there's some other really good moments to it. And there's a little bit of heart to this film as well, I think. The ending's quite sweet. Didn't blow my mind, but it was actually, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Ooh, I was really looking forward to this film. The cast and the animation style for me were enough to draw me in, and I am so happy because I'm not a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I never watched the show, I'll admit to that, but I watched the 90s movie, which I thought was okay for what it was. It's not really my thing. I know it's got this cult following now. I thought the 2 Michael Bay films were horrendous, and there was an animated one which came onto Netflix last year as well, which I thought was one of the worst things I watched last year. It was straight up awful, and I hear the TV show that's based off that movie. Don't know whether the show came first or after. I don't know. Don't care either. I hear that's not very good either. So me and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles never really got on, to be honest. But anyway, finally we have a film I actually not only just really like, I'm borderline loved this movie. I thought the animation style was brilliant. I thought the story was fun, wacky, and weird. The characters were great. I loved the script to this movie. I'm guessing big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans might not. It's very Seth Rogen-y, you can tell. A lot of the one-liners and the way characters react to things is very quippy. But I loved it. I thought it was honestly really good. The action sequences were fun. The pacing was great. So many things about this movie really, really worked. Yeah, definitely the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles product I've ever seen, without a doubt. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Then we have Grave of Fireflies. I've recently really got back into my Studio Ghibli. I think I've only got 2 films of theirs left to watch now. But I've been on a real binge of getting through the films I haven't seen from them. And I don't know why it's taken me this long, to be honest, because Studio Ghibli is truly one of the best studios ever. If you haven't watched any of their movies, then I implore you to do it, because they're amazing. And I came back to one of their best here, but this one is a hard watch. This is about Japan during the end of the Second World War, when basically the Americans were just bombing the hell out of them. It doesn't show the atomic bomb which got dropped on them, but it does show a lot of stuff which happened just before then, where, you know, and it's about the innocent, the people who are just trying to live their day-to-day life. It's about this brother and his sister who are just homeless. They don't know where to go, what to do, because, you know, their home's been bombed. And it's a really heartbreaking story, and you realise how terrifying it would have been to be in their position back then. Obviously, the Second World War, especially at this period of time, you know, it's after Germany had been defeated and stuff, and it's very just like, you know, the Japan's was looked at as the only, you know, threat left to America, but there's still innocence, and it puts a spotlight on that, and it's heartbreaking. It really is, but it's an incredible film. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It really, really is fantastic, and especially after watching like Oppenheimer, which of course is the bomb which did get dropped on Japan at the end there. You know, it's a very important movie. Again, I suggest to anyone to go watch it. And then following that up, we have Carry On Regardless. Yeah, these Carry On films, I normally get about 1 a month in. They don't blow me away. They're fine. They're fine films. And this was quite good. It had some good laughs in it. And again, I never have much to say about these. They all feel the same. You know, you got pretty much the same actors in all of them. The jokes all feel very similar. For me, what makes these films better is the situations, or not the situations, but where they are. Like the first one, Sergeant, and I think there was an Officer as well I watched. I can't remember, but they're more interesting in more of an academy. Whereas ones where it's just a bit more day-to-day like this, they don't grab my attention as much. It depends where they are, what they're doing with these films, I find. But I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10. It got some laughs out of me. It's fine. Then we have Heart of Stone. Okay, this is the new Netflix film starring Gal Gadot. I saw the trailers for this, thought it looked awful. There's one bit I really like. I like the action sequence at the start where she comes down the mountain on her parachute that's lit up. I was like, that looks cool. That was really nice. I reckon that looked great on like IMAX or something. But that's about it. This film sucks. The action's boring. The story is incredibly predictable. Gal Gadot is just bad in this movie. There's some twists in it, which you can see coming a mile off. There's no heart to this film. Funny enough, Heartstone. There is no heart. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about what's happening. It's incredibly dull, incredibly boring, incredibly lazy, and just very, very generic. I'm going to give this film a 3.5 out of 10. Really wasn't a very good film. Then we have Lupine the Third, The Castle of Cagliostro. I think I'm pronouncing that right. This was the first Miyazaki film. Definitely pronouncing that wrong. Of course, the very famous director for a lot of Studio Ghibli's best movies. And yeah, this one here, you can tell it's his first film. The animation style, really great. You know, it's the anime, it's the 2D animation style. I love that. But you can tell it's a lot older than the others. It looks a lot older. And the plot itself was interesting about these two bank robbers that get mixed up in a lot more than they bargained for. And yeah, you know, it's just not quite got that weird, wacky style that the later Ghibli films get. But it's a lot of fun still. There's a lot of interesting moments to it. But yeah, unlike a lot of Ghibli stuff, this one didn't grab me quite as well as I wanted it to. But yeah, I still had a good time with it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 still. Really enjoyed it. Then we have Gran Turismo. Apologies, there's some building work going on, like, don't know, like 10 houses down from me. Gran Turismo, as people know, I'm a big F1 fan, so I wanted to see this. I know they go to some F1 tracks, like the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone they go to. And yeah, I thought, you know, I don't play Gran Turismo, but I play the F1 games, and they're very similar. You follow a line, and you have to be very technical with it, because it's not like Mario Kart or Hot Wheels, where you just throw yourself around a track. So yeah, I was really interested. It's based on a true story as well. And yeah, look, I had a great time with it. I like my racing. I like this kind of stuff. It was cheesy as hell at times. There were some one-liners which really made me laugh. Orlando Bloom was not very good in it. I don't know why people keep casting him, to be honest. He seems like a lovely guy, but he's just not a very good actor. But I thought David Harbour was really good. I thought the main guy was good in it. And yeah, this film, there's a lot of tension in it, and you really are rooting for the main character. It's got some problems, but it's a really good movie. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I had a lot of fun with this one. Then we have Porco Rosso. Yes, it's about a pig. A pig man who flies a plane and with this girl ends up getting caught up in a lot of mess for Studio Ghibli. Like I said earlier, Studio Ghibli do some weird stuff, and this is definitely one of the weirdest ones. Actually, is it? Is it one of the weirdest ones? I don't know. They do some really strange stuff. We've got another one we're going to talk about in a bit here, Poco. So wait till we go to that one. That one's really weird. But yeah, this is a strange one. Again, there's a lot of actually fun, fast-paced sequences with this one. But again, for me, this one, while I really enjoyed it, I'm going to give it a very good score. When it comes to Studio Ghibli, it's not one of their best again, actually. But, you know, Studio Ghibli stuff's all up here. It's some of the best animated stuff ever. So you get a couple that are near at the bottom of their list. They're still really good animated films. The animation style was great. Again, I really like the voice acting in this one. I thought the character designs as well, especially with Porco himself, was really, really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It just didn't hold my attention quite as well as some of the others. But I'm still going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was a really good movie. Then we got My Neighbor The Yamadas, which of course is another Studio Ghibli one. And a very interesting animation style with this one, which I loved. I loved seeing animated films like this. And another one which I'll be talking about next month's video was, I watched, what are they called? The Tale of Princess... Oh, Kaguma? Probably pronouncing that wrong, even though I've watched the entire movie. So I should know it. But the only problem is I've watched like 10 films since, so I've forgotten it. The animation style on that was also excellent. I love it when Studio Ghibli does these kind of styles like this. But anyway, My Neighbors The Yamadas. Really, really cool animation style. Love that. And the family bond that you get in this one is really, really great. You see this family go through so many different phases, and it's really interesting. My favourite character was the dad in this one. But yeah, you know, again, I don't know. I think my issue with this one is that there wasn't enough story there to carry it for 2 hours, because this is how long the film is. I don't think there was quite enough there. But I did have a thoroughly good time with this one. I thought there was a lot of entertaining moments to it. And again, I was just glued to the screen from start to finish purely because of the animation. But I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10 as well. Then we have Death Game 2. I'm going to be so quick on this. You know, this was all filmed well after Bruce Lee had died. There was a lot of footage there from him from other films. I hated what they done with this movie. The new characters sucked. How they tried to carry it on from Death Game 1. Or Game of Death, sorry. Yeah, Game of Death. Yeah. Sorry. I'm getting well mixed up here with the titles. Yeah. Game of Death 2. Mixing up my words here. Too much talking. Yeah, I thought it was actually really kind of disgraceful to the memory of Bruce Lee. I think they got started filming this film. I'm not entirely sure how it all worked out. But I just don't think they should have made this. I just don't think they should have put it out, to be honest. Anyway, here we are. It exists. I watched it and I thought it was pretty horrific. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. Then we got The Founder, which I watched on Netflix, which is about the man who found the two guys who had started up this new, very quick, fast food burger chain, McDonald's. And he took full advantage of them. Michael Keaton, of course, playing the main character. And yeah, it's a really interesting story. I loved how it started, and I loved seeing the progression of Michael Keaton trying to take this business to the next steps. I think the film lost its way a bit in certain places, but it was thoroughly interesting in terms of these kind of autobiographies, the things that are like based on true stories. This one was definitely very interesting. It's not one of the best I've seen. It's not one of the worst. It'll probably fall around the middle of the pack. But yeah, I thought The Founder was a really solid film still. And some really heartbreaking moments, some very cruel moments with Michael Keaton's character. Yeah, I'm going to give this film I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Okay, then we have True Crime, Clint Eastwood. Another one. He stars in this one as well. And again, I don't have loads to say on this one. It's definitely better than In the Garden of Good and Evil. It's definitely better than that, and I don't think that takes much effort. He directs this one as well. I thought there was some interesting moments in this one. I really like Clint Eastwood's character. The whole mystery element to it was pretty cool. And a lot of the side characters fun as well. I just think this film ran a little bit too long and the pacing weren't great. And while I liked it, it just didn't really do anything to blow me away. It's a film that sort of just exists in my Clint Eastwood catalogue now of films I've seen. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Where are we at? Then we have The Crow. So The Crow, I watched this because 2 of my friends absolutely love this movie and they've been begging me to watch it for ages. So I finally did it. Yeah, it's cheesy 80s horror. I think it's 80s. Or is it 90s? I don't know. And it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a very cool concept about this guy coming back for revenge and just killing some other assholes out there. And there's a lot of interesting elements to it. First off, I actually love the main character. I think that the way he looks is really cool and some of his kills are super fun. I wasn't massive on the ending, I don't think. I thought a lot of the song choices were quite good, though. Yeah, I like this film. I didn't love it as much as some. Definitely didn't love it as much as my friends who have been recommended it to me. Sorry if they're watching. But I did like it. I had a good time with it. It's very fun. Product of its time, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Really, really fun movie. Then we have Blue Beetle. I've reviewed this one here in detail on the channel. Blue Beetle was fine. I'd still stand by what I said in the review. My opinion hasn't changed. I think it's fine. It doesn't do anything wrong. It doesn't do anything too right. It just sort of exists. It's fine. It's a fine movie. You know, the action sequences are fun. The characters are pretty generic. Yeah, it exists. And I don't mind it. I'll stick my 5.5 out of 10. Next up, we have Tales from Earthsea. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting the title mixed up there because I was talking about the Tale of Princess, whatever her name is, and then I was like, another one called Tale? Yeah, okay. Another Studio Ghibli one here. I told you I was really, really on a Studio Ghibli kick this month, and I've really been enjoying them, to be fair. If you're wondering, I've already seen, you know, My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away and all that stuff. All the really big ones. Anyway, this one here, I've been told this was one of the weakest ones. I'd seen, other than the obvious Earwig and the Witch, I've heard that this is like their only kind of misstep. And do you know what? I didn't mind this one. I thought the third act was really, really good. I loved the villain in the end that Willem Dafoe was voicing. I thought he'd done a great job. His look was creepy and I thought it was really cool. But yeah, the first 2 acts for this one were just kind of... Yeah, I get what they were going for. I really do. I could see a great film in here. I could see actually maybe a series of great films. Like the lore they were trying to build, the character work. I really did feel like there was a lot of good stuff in this movie. It just wasn't coming through very well. And I just think it was the direction and the pacing just wasn't helping. Also, they tease us with dragons, like at the start of the movie. And the dragons are on the posters. And there's barely any dragons in this movie. Never do that. Never do that. People love dragons. yeah, I still had a decent time with it, you know. Some people don't like this movie. I do. But yeah, compared to other Ghibli films, it's definitely one of the weakest. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Then we have Vacation Friends 2. I had no idea this had even been made. I just was scrolling through Netflix and it popped up and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't mind the first one. I thought the first one was fine. I just like John Cena. I think he's a funny guy. But in this one, they even made John Cena kind of boring. He sort of seemed like he didn't want to be there. All the jokes pretty much fell flat on their faces. I think with the first one, there was a realistic side of, you got a very serious couple there and then a very outrageous couple there and they become friends. In this one, they get on like, they're having like it's like a car chase at one point and they're getting shot at and there's like a heist and a gun shootout bit. It's like so much going on. It's like, look, don't get me wrong, the first one wasn't super believable, but it had, you know, a grounded style to it, let's say. Whereas this one just throws all that out the window. It's just full on mental. And it wasn't that funny. All the characters were annoying. Yeah, didn't really like this film at all, to be honest. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 10. And then we got Youre Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah, which of course is Adam Sandler's new movie, which stars his 2 daughters, and his wife is also in the movie. Now, I think his eldest daughter and his wife have cameoed in a lot of these films before, but they all sort of have pretty prominent roles in this one. And it was a fine little film. It's a very teenage girly film, you know, these 2 girls fall out and they're both about to have their bar mitzvahs and, you know, it's a lot of teen drama-y stuff, but it works really well because you get the families who are involved and stuff, and there's just some interesting sequences that happen in it. Adam Sandler himself cracks me up being the kind of, yeah, I'm the dad. Yeah, I'll do what I'm told. I'm here. I'll just be, you know, rock up every now and then. I think he's aging really well, Adam Sandler, with his roles like this. Yeah, it had a few good laughs. It had a few heartwarming moments, and it was charming at times. It didn't do anything amazing, but yeah, I thought it was fine. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. Then we have the Ewok Adventure, Caravan of Courage. Yeah, I've very kindly been asked by my friend Tom, if you're watching, Tom, hello, to take part in, or just talking to me about a documentary he's making on these 2 Star Wars films, which come out in the 80s, of course. And I'm going to be honest, as big of a Star Wars fan I am, I've never watched them. And it's purely just because I've heard how awful they are, and they're not canon anymore, so it's like, I don't need to bother. And I've never been able to find a way to watch them, even though I do have, probably shouldn't show you, but anyway, I do have a couple pirated Blu-rays of them, because I like to own everything Star Wars, because it did my favourite thing. Anyway, they're on Disney Plus now, so I thought, fuck it. Let's watch one. I get that they're aimed for very, very young children, but I don't see the point in them. At the time, I'm guessing these were considered canon to Star Wars. I just don't get the point. They have no impact on the universe. The Ewoks themselves are probably the most... I don't think people hate the Ewoks or anything, but they're probably the least popular thing from Return of the Jedi. So to do a film basically centered around them was a bit questionable. There's no sort of plot to this movie. There's no villain. The stakes in this movie are so low. There's a lot of cringy lines. It's pretty much as bad as expected. But, I don't know. You got Warwick Davis underneath Wicket's costume, and you've got him running about with some other Ewoks, and they're making their little yap-yap noises. And for me, it's like, there's a little bit of charm there, just because I love Return of the Jedi. So for me, it was like, you know, this is bad. It's really quite bad. But I don't hate it. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 10. Then we got Poco, which is the final Studio Ghibli film I'm going to be talking about today, which is the one about all the raccoons. And it really reminded me, the style to it, of like these animals rising up to something like Fantastic Mr. Fox, but then they get some strange superpowers, which goes a bit beyond Fantastic Mr. Fox. And the style in which it was filmed, I wonder if this inspired Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs bit, because it had a very similar kind of eerie feel about it, where there was a narrator and it was all about animals again, and it was just, it caught me off guard a bit, where I was like, this is reminding me of Isle of Dogs a bit. Also, anyone who's watching this movie, yes, they did animate balls onto the male raccoons. It took me like 10 minutes to realise. All of a sudden I was like, yep, they've all got balls. very interesting story. I actually really enjoyed this one. This was probably the best Ghibli film I watched this month after Grave of Fireflies. It's a very interesting story about these raccoons, which, you know, they're losing their forest and stuff, and they end up getting these weird monster powers, which reminded me of something like yokai monsters, and end up haunting, trying to scare the humans away. And there's a really cool story to it, and they do a lot of surprisingly lore type stuff with it, and it works quite well. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. And we have Strays, the new Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx film. I was really kind of looking forward to this, actually. The trailer looked really funny, but unfortunately they did just put all the funny bits in the trailer. A lot of the jokes fell flat on their face, to be honest, in this one. The film just, it was what it was. It felt like a very slapstick comedy, rushed. Not much effort's all gone into writing this one or anything. And as I say, the main purpose of the film, I'm not expecting great things. The main purpose of the film was to make me laugh, and to be honest, it was just the bits from the trailer which made me laugh. Other than that, it was like, yeah. Jamie Foxx was funny. But yeah, Strays, I wasn't expecting much in the first place, but it was quite disappointing. But I'll say it was middle of the road. I'll give it a 5. And the final film I have to talk about is The Circle. I watched this because John Boyega, Emma Watson, and Tom Hanks. 3 incredible actors there. Who were all wasted. This movie felt like a Black Mirror episode, and to be honest, the first half was really dull, really boring, and I hated it. The second half, things kind of picked up, but the scenarios in which this circle thing of like having cameras everywhere, being able to track anyone at any point, the scenarios in which they showed this going wrong were so over the top and blown out of proportion, it became laughable. So yeah, I thought Emma Watson gave a good performance in this very, very bad movie. But that's probably one of the few highlights I can find with this one. I thought it was a really bad film. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10. Anyway, got to pick my film of the month as always. And the film of the month for me is going to be Oppenheimer. Incredible movie. Got to see it in IMAX. It is just one of the best cinema experiences I've had this year, to be honest. It's my second favourite film of the year so far. It's a real eye-opener at how scary nuclear warfare is, and probably, unfortunately, will be one day. But yeah, it's an important film, and you've got to put yourself in the right mindset, because at the end of this film, you are going to walk away very depressed, and maybe even feeling a bit sick. But I think that speaks wonders for the filmmaking level, for a film to be able to make you feel like that. Oppenheimer is incredible. Anyway, guys, there we go. That's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed as always. It's been a long one. My voice is dying. I'm sweating because I've had to turn my fan off. So I'm going to just go, like, have a cold bath or something now. Cold shower. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message. And as always, I'll see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.